All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us again for another Health Truth Life video. We're glad to be here. Glad that you're here. We're going to be talking about a topic that I've been hearing a lot of people complain about recently, and I'm kind of on board with it a little, I think. And it's the daylight savings time, having to, spring forward and fall back, and we're losing our daylight, losing some of our daytime sunshine. It seems to be getting darker earlier, obviously, and even my kids recognize it coming home from practice the other day. They're like, how is it already dark? They want to get home and still have time to jump on the trampoline and play outside and do those things. And so we're going to talk about how it does seem to, if you're not mindful of it, kind of push you more indoors and push you to where you feel.
It happened quick, didn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It seemed like within a few weeks, right? It was getting darker earlier, then all of a sudden you have the daylight savings shift, and then it's a whole nother component. One of the blessings is brighter earlier in the morning, but then of course darker later. And so in addition to the daylight savings component, the whole idea that of course within the winter compared to the summer, there's on average about 2 hours less of sunlight outside, regardless of when the time is, and that's just based on the seasons and the amount of sunlight available between the differences of the winter solstice, which is usually around mid-December, and the summer solstice, which is around mid-summer, or like mid-June, I'm sorry. So the point is you have the most amount of daylight during summer solstice, which is right around June 20th, and the least amount of daylight, sunlight, around that December 20th time period. So we're kind of sneaking up to that December 20th time period where we'll have the lowest amount of sunlight during that day. And then it'll start slowly, like 1 minute at a time, getting more and more sunlight, which, and that's why one of the hypotheses and theories, I guess, of seasonal affective disorder is related to light and light exposure, or the lack of light exposure during those times, which plays into people's potential moods, depression, mental energy, all those things. So we wanted to talk about that and also kind of give some action steps with respect to what can be done during times like this, whenever there's obviously less daylight time, and also shift in schedules that happen with the daylight savings time shift.
Like I was saying, it does tend to kind of mentally force us to where we're like, man, we got to go inside. Like the day's done, there's no more sunlight. Let's go indoors. So that's the challenge, is finding that time. We talk about this a lot. We encourage our patients and people out there to get in the sun as much as you can. So if you're working a full-time job, if you have to be there at 6, 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning, you don't have much opportunity. And then, you work your day, you get home, it's already getting dark. What do you recommend, and what's the best way to try to still find some time for natural sunlight? And
it's a great question, especially if people do have work that they have to navigate. But I think having as consistent a sleep pattern as possible, that's where you start. So 8 to 9 hours of sleep a night, base your day on that, and then get as much with that sleep, get as much sun exposure as possible to get light exposure to your eyes and to your retina, which actually is connected to your brain, to help reset your circadian clock for your day's activities. And so you want to ideally, if your job allows for it, have your day scheduled and set based on the light. And so those two things, sleep and light, are probably the biggest things to keep as consistent as possible.
Even something as simple, we talk about this a lot too, is going for a 10 minute, 15-minute walk if you can on your lunch break, or it's funny to me that we used to allow people to take smoke breaks. Like people would go outside and smoke. Take a walk break. Take 10 minutes and go for a walk. And
does your employer let you do that?
He does. He's a great guy. He knows the benefits of it. So there is time throughout the day I think we can find to still get outside and get in the sun and receive that. And for those hardcore people that want to get up at, we were just talking about this, it's getting light now at 5:30. Like there's already sunlight, it's light enough to go out and start to feel that warmth of the sun and to receive that energy from it. So,
Right.
get up and get out there.
Absolutely. So did want to go through some action steps. If you
Yeah.
would kind of go through there and we can kind of talk about
Sure.
some of those, that would be great.
Yeah, we've gone over a couple of them, but I'll start from the top here. So 8 to 9 hours of consistent sleep with near consistent schedule. So yeah, try to keep it as consistent as you can. I mean, to me, this season is making it easier to go to bed earlier. It's getting darker earlier. You kind of, my wife and I, was it like a couple nights ago, it was like 7 o'clock, and we're like, man, it feels like 9 o'clock already. We're like, we should be getting ready for bed, but so yeah, it does kind of, it's easier to get more consistent, I think, with getting to bed earlier.
It's a feeling, and also, and I think that the giving grace to y'all out there and to us, summer is a time of activity.
Yeah.
And winter is a time typically of more hibernation and rest and recovery. Let yourself rest.
Yeah.
I mean, if you feel like you're at the point of, hey, you've had a busy fall, busy summer, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of nonsense, and
it's almost like it's by design, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a whole other topic. The point is, give yourself the chance to rest, to hibernate, to sleep, to get away from that which is cluttering your mind and your spirit, and get back to meditating, praying, reading, just things that are above, not below, and thinking on things that are above. And so I think that right there is a big part of things too, is simplifying that what you're bringing into your mind and your spirit.
Yeah.
And that allows for rest and recovery and rejuvenation, for sure.
Okay. So the second one we have here is sun exposure early, which is available due to earlier sunrise. It resets circadian rhythm. So yeah, we hit on that. Get up early, get outside, just go for a walk. Get outdoors, and just experience the energy from the sun.
In a sense, that idea of the circadian rhythm is essentially rhythm based on a 24-hour light-dark cycles. And so the earlier you get sun and or light exposure to your eyes and brain, then your body resets to then get ready for 12 to 14 hours later to secrete melatonin to allow you to go to sleep. So that sun exposure early helps reset your clock, your cortisol patterns, your hormone patterns, your melatonin pattern, all that to allow you to have more restful sleep and a more balanced schedule throughout the day for your body.
Yeah.
So
it's good. Number 3, optimize vitamin D3. So get your levels checked, get sun exposure when you can, and then supplement if needed.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this time of year it's probably a good thing. Hit on adding some extra vitamin D, D3 to your...
Usually takes a few months for it to get out of your system. So if people had high levels during summer, because they typically do, because they're outside more, or higher levels, they will start to lower in that December, January, February time period. And that's why it's important to know what your level is and or get some sun exposure during the day and or supplement if necessary, because there is an association for sure with depression and also seasonal affective disorder, and of course colds, flus, other things with suboptimal vitamin D levels. And so that's something to discuss with your doctor, and of course research yourself to make sure you're getting enough, and you do get it from the sun. Your body actually makes vitamin D3 with the liver, the kidneys, and the skin based on sun exposure. So it's something we make ourselves.
Yeah, that's great. So the fourth one here is exercise 3 to 4 times a week. You can do some high intensity strength training with CV work as well. So cardiovascular, so yeah, exercise, such an important thing. And we do seem to be less active, like we were just talking about. This tends to make you want to kind of, stay indoors more, be less active. So it's important to be mindful of that and make that effort to exercise.
And the simplicity of high intensity interval training is literally like what I think about and what I'm in a pattern of right now with my exercise. I've got an elliptical at home. We got it on Facebook Marketplace. No, we actually got it from a neighbor at like a Saturday just sale. It was a neighbor's garage sale. And I'll do a 5-minute warm up. I'll do 5 or 6 sets of simply 30 seconds at nearly the fastest pace I could do, followed by 90 seconds of rest. So it's essentially 5 to 6 sets of 2 minutes per set, and you're doing 30 seconds of high intensity activity. So it's almost like you're working for, if you do 30 seconds times 5 or 6 sets, That's 3 minutes
Yeah.
of high intensity hard work, and the rest of it is like kind of medium work. But those 30 seconds of sprint work help stimulate growth hormone production, help reduce the stress hormone cortisol, and help modulate insulin, so lower insulin resistance and help lower blood sugar, and again, just overall improve neurochemistry because it actually increases dopamine production, endorphin production from the exercise. So these are things that can be done like right now that, hey, during the time whenever we've got, maybe you've got less time to exercise, find times where you can get 20 minutes to do a HIIT type workout 3 days a week, and then do some strength training in addition. And it really doesn't require a huge time investment, but the rewards are so great. And so, and just to make sure it's scheduled to the point of 3 to 4 days a week. It's a very reasonable time investment.
Seems like it's pretty easily achievable. You're right. All right, the next one we have on here is reduce processed foods, sugars, and alcohol.
Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Plan for what's around there. So what's around there is a lot of junk food, right? And impulsive eating, which then leads to worse problems potentially and an increased risk potentially of infection. So think about these things as you're preparing Thanksgiving meal right now and Christmas meal right now.
It's like the perfect storm. If you're struggling with SAD, seasonal affective disorder, it's going to make
eating
you
processed food, sugar, alcohol, all makes that harder to deal with. That's not saying don't enjoy some eggnog or some, whatever, some alcohol.
Pumpkin pie.
But but have it balanced to where you don't overindulge to where the next week is...
You're feeling it, you're miserable, and you're more sad,
sad.
Oh man, all right, so next is create time for weekly rest and recreation. I think that's important when, recreation, it's tough to find, or we think it is. You got to be mindful of it. But in the summer, we're drawn outdoors. We're drawn to recreation. But in the winter, in the shorter days, it seems like you just want to be indoors. And so you got to be mindful of that and make yourself get outside and find recreational things to do.
Certainly think that's important. Once a week just to get away. Whether it's like, for my wife, she likes to drive to Destin and rock climb, and that resets like her week. That's a kind of a form of recreation and exercise for her. But whatever kind of gets you, out of your routine to give you a component of rest, and a component of recreation, which is the idea of simply just enjoying an activity without competition and without truly like an end goal, just to enjoy time of doing something, an activity that you love. So hiking,
I like it.
Creating something, knitting, whatever floats your boat to kind of get you out of your routine.
Hiking. This is a great time of season, time of year to get in the woods and hike. We don't here we're on the beach, so we go to the beach a lot, and it's still beautiful on the beach this time of year. But there's something about getting in the woods and just going for a hike. And we took the kids, the whole family, went to Naval Live Oaks here last weekend. And just went all through those trails, and it's just nice getting in when you're surrounded by wilderness and woods, All right, so next we have reduce mind clutter by focusing, meditating, and praying on things above, not on below.
Wow.
Man, I know that's a big one. I like that.
Wow. Yeah. So mind clutter, like if you think about just how much is in our mind and how much, our mind is our storehouse for, our day-to-day focus of what we do. And so it's the root of our life, which is our fruit. So controlling what goes into your mind and navigating that and monitoring that, and particularly not having a lot of it coming in the morning when you're trying to create and or produce and or live out your life with your family and your community. If you're overloaded with tons of information and a lot of divisive information, I think it does lend to more of a state of disease and not a state of emotional and mental health. And so navigating what's in your mind and the media you take in, I think is so important.
It's huge.
It's hard, and we're a victim of it too, so.
There is something though to this, obviously, as you meditate, pray, ponder truth and scripture, you're more hopeful, you're more optimistic, you see life more clearly, and you tend to be less sad. You tend to struggle less with these things, and you realize there's a season and a plan for everything.
And a perspective.
So, yeah. So you can embrace the shorter days, a little bit of more darkness. You can embrace the cold in these things and know there's a plan for it, a reason for it, and seek truth, even in just the changing of seasons and weather and losing an hour. If your mind's on things above, and just not focused on all the negatives.
And for a practical perspective, also look for something hopeful. January, February, March, whatever it is. Spring break coming up. Start planning that.
That's good.
I have I guess something I did last year that I really enjoyed was prepare for the Double Bridge Run, which is early February this year in Pensacola. It's a 9-mile run, but I'm starting to prepare for that. So my mind's already preparing on training for that with the exercise I'm doing to try and do better, right?
Yeah,
and so it's
great.
something that gives me hope for January, February.
Have some goals and some plans.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So the last one we have on here, number 8, daylight savings action steps. Engage in community. That's a very important thing as well to kind of boost to kind of pull us out of this the seasonal affective disorder.
We are humans, and we are meant to be in community.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you do that? What's your?
It's neat, man. Like my kids are involved in sports, and so we have neat communities through each sport that the kids are playing, meeting with the families of the other kids. That's such a fun aspect of our kids playing sports. I love it.
Right.
And then church. Obviously, we have a church community that we meet with every Sunday, and we interact with periodically too throughout the week. Just being a part of extended family and outside of your family, it is so important. You're right. God designed us to be in a community with others, not to be alone and secluded. So don't let this time of year push you to be alone and be indoors and spend more time by yourself. And
a lot of people, we understand, deal with family trauma and baggage that they bring to these Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners, where they're not happy to be there because they're having to relive and rehash old things. And that's where forgiveness comes in, and also just perspective of being in the present moment with those loved ones. Recognize that, hey, while there may be challenges of previous interactions, that you can get by and through that, but that requires, I think, a spiritual discernment, and again, thinking on things above and not our own flesh and not our own wanting to get our way. So that's on all of us to kind of consider during this time, because it brings up a lot of emotions. Family gatherings.
It's challenging.
Man, it is. We recognize that. But there's also a time for boundaries. So if you're going to family gatherings and you feel like you're always a victim and always being neglected and not being managed, some of that may be on you, because you're bringing that on yourself by how you're bringing yourself into the situation.
Your thoughts.
Exactly. So be mindful of that. Part of it may be your issue, or my issue. So hey, that's what we got to be mindful of with these interactions. But there is a reason for boundaries sometimes, if again, even despite that, you feel like you're being taken advantage of or neglected in a familial relationship. Certainly that's a time to create boundaries and not put yourself into those situations of neglect. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, totally. It does. Yeah, all these things I think tie in and can help us as we navigate through this. This sad time of year, this seasonal affective disorder that we all can fall into.
Be empowered. I think just be empowered. Eat better. Think better. Do stuff with your body better. All those things will let you live a more powerful life and have some degree of empowerment during this sad season.
That's it.
So
that was good.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Have a great week, and we'll have another Matrix concept coming out, I believe, Friday. This will be on
Thought Life.
So very good.
It's a good one.
Thank you all very much. Have a great day.
Y'all take care.